What's up, everyone? Today I'm going to talk about whether or not ChatGPT can play chess and also whether it can explain chess. They're two very different concepts. First of all, can it play chess? The answer is yes, but not very well compared to a strong human player. I think it was a few months ago Magnus Carlsen tweeted that he was on an airplane and engaged ChatGPT for a quick game of chess, which he easily won, not surprising. On the other hand, there is some ability for them to play chess. If you're a beginner, it might give you a pretty good game. And even if you're a more experienced player, you might be interested to sort of see at what point does it start to go astray. Now, the other question I want to talk about is, can LLMs be used to explain chess? So if you played a game of chess on chess.com and you're sort of looking for feedback about a particular position or move you made, you can ask ChatGPT. Now, the quality of those responses is potentially dubious. And the reason for that is LLMs are just not chess engines. That's not what they're doing. They're not calculating. They're basically trying to predict what would be the most logical next token or part of the context to respond with. So what I'm going to take a look at is what happens if we give ChatGPT just a raw chess position, say what moves are played, and see how it performs. Then we're going to take a look at in the Nova Chess app, which also leverages LLMs, but it provides a lot more information to contrast the difference and see what sort of improvement we're able to get. Okay, so this is from a game I played this morning. As you can see, I was not doing well at this point. I was actually just down a couple of pawns here. Then I played knight takes f6, which was correct, and black played a blunder, which was rook d8 check. You can see here in the description, I failed to capitalize, and my next move was the inaccurate knight d7. So let's take a look and see what ChatGPT thinks about this position. So I asked it to consider the following chess position. This is the Fen representation of the position where it's white's move after black just played rook d8. So I'm asking it to evaluate the resulting position and the quality of each player's moves. Okay, so it says black's move 43 rook d8 check, quality reasonable. It forces white to react, but the options are limited because black's king can't escape easily. The intent is logical, but black is behind materially and positionally. Now, if we go back to the position on the board, is black behind materially? Well, yes, because I'm actually up at knight for 2 pawns. So that is correct. White's move, knight d7. White blocks the check with the knight, which is a natural response. Quality, good. The knight not only blocks the check, but also covers important squares and keeps the initiative. White remains up significant material, and black lacks meaningful threats. So evaluation of the resulting position. White has an extra queen and rook for a rook and is completely winning. Okay, so it thinks that in this position, I have an extra queen and rook for a rook. No mention of the knight or black's queen. So you can see clearly that there's a very large problem in terms of ChatGPT understanding what the material is on the board, even though this is a relatively simple position. So stockfish evaluation, approximate at this stage and with proper play by white. And remember, this is after I play knight d7. So after this move, which is actually, it gives it as a draw. The evaluation is well over +10, decisive advantage for white. So reasonable but desperate move, black is lost. Accurate and strong response keeps the king safe and maintains winning chances. Overall, white is totally winning in the resulting position. Okay, that is clearly not the case, as we can see from the eval after I play knight d7. After moves like queen c6, despite being down a knight or a minor piece for 2 pawns, the white king is very exposed, and this should be a draw with proper play by both sides. So clearly a lot of issues we see in how ChatGPT, without additional information, is explaining positions. Now let's take a look at what shows in the app. So move 43, rook d8 check, black's blunder, white failed to capitalize. So rather than saying that rook d8 was a reasonable move, it was actually a critical blunder that allowed white a forced mating sequence, missing a winning continuation. Instead, instead of rook d8 check, you can see here queen h1 is the top and only move that gives black an advantage. So we've got queen h1 check, initiating a forcing attack with king d2, rook takes e2 check, king takes e2, queen takes h2 check, king f3, queen h1 check, and so on. In this case, black apparently has a small edge despite being down material. I think there's a way to probably to force a queen trade and then to capture the knight on f6. So that's what black should have done, and that's why rook d8 was a pretty terrible move. This was a blitz game, so we expect a lot of these, certainly at my level. But then if we see what white should have done after this instead of playing knight d7. So the correct response for white was 44, king c2, aiming to open lines decisively by provoking black's kingside weaknesses after g takes f6, queen takes f6 check, king g8. I do not have rook g2 check because the queen is guarding that. But I've got queen g6 check, king h8, queen takes h6. In this case, white is completely winning with a forced mate on the board. So at the end, it says this line demonstrates how precise king moves and queen activity can convert an opponent's tactical oversight into a decisive advantage, while the played knight move missed this concrete chance. So we see there's a big difference in terms of how an LLM on its own, like ChatGPT, can explain the position, evaluate move quality, talk about what the best move should have been or things to consider, and then what actually is happening in the Nova Chess app, which is also an LLM like ChatGPT, but I'm feeding it a lot more information. And some of that information is not only the stockfish lines of what were played in the game, but also stockfish lines from hypothetical moves, such as the best continuation. In order to prevent sort of the hallucination of where pieces are, I give English language as well as notational descriptions of where every piece is after each sort of critical move being considered. When exchanges happen, I count the pieces. I literally say there are knights on these squares, pawns on these squares. I will indicate what the pieces exchanged were after every exchange sequence. That way, it's less likely. It can still happen that it miscalculates or miscounts something, but it's way less likely when you're providing it just in language form. So if you've ever tried it yourself, you've probably encountered a lot of these issues. But just want to sort of demonstrate how I was able to create something that, while not perfect, is going to be, I think, a lot better than what you would get if you're just chatting with your favorite LLM about a chess position. So hopefully that's interesting. If you have any feedback, feel free to let me know in the comments.